Hello, dear friends. We live in a time when the devil is no longer hiding, but the world cannot yet see him. Opinion piece. When and how? Calm before the storm. Are we at the end of the show? When and how will the breakthrough come? World economy is bankrupt. What are the white hats waiting for? Banks are devastated. Debt cancellation decree in Ecuador. Europe is burdening its citizens with public debt. Sources remain optimistic, but nothing is moving. Midterm election results still are uncertain. Let's start. When will the breakthrough begin? As soon as the sleeping multitude wakes up and rebels against the injustice that have been committed. Answers in quotes, Peter B. Mayer. Everyone will wake up in a different way and with a different level of sensitivity to the truth. People are impatient and their memory is very short. Very few are able to take a long-term view of what is happening because everyone has become accustomed to living in the now and not focusing on what is to come. What are the white hats waiting for? Asks Stefan. They can't wait for people to take the streets and tear down everything in their path, although that would be a natural reaction. Civil unrest would be counterproductive for us and also for the divine plan, and the casualties would be too great. Are they waiting for us to protest peacefully and risk being beaten up by the police like in Germany? The more I think about it, the more confused I become. I just can't imagine what else the coalition has to do and what they expect from us. They say uniformed would be the only way, but most light workers are not uniformed. They say to learn to decode their messages, but that is not easy. They say nothing can stop what is coming, but we have been hearing that for years and nothing is coming. The dominoes has been falling for a long time, but we haven't seen the results. What is a unit doing behind enemy lines with no support, no supplies, no reinforcements, no ammunition? How long do those units hold out when all they hear over the radio is that they should hold out, and that everything is under control? Meanwhile, troops are losing comrades in combat or deserting. How do these fighters feel? They don't know the whole plan either. They also have to trust and believe. The tactic has been to use the elections as a wake-up call. Partial failure because few have noticed. At the same time, the number of those who feel let down is growing. However, this tactic is still being maintained or only slightly modified. There are two possibilities. Either we are nearing the end of the show, or it will continue endlessly like a repetitive loop. Sources remain optimistic, but nothing is moving. I would be more excited if we were seeing things happening around the world on the financial restarting front. Everyone at the top has gone very quiet. Calm before the storm. It's absolute silence on the currency revaluation front. We were told it would be chaotic at the end, followed by silence. Hopefully, we are silent at the moment. Whatever is done in the dark will come to light. Recession. The news channels are not screaming about a stock market crash or an economic depression. And last October would have been the month when it was all going to happen. But that doesn't mean the economy is recovering by a long shot. HSBC, the largest bank in the Western world, says that the global recession has begun and that the pain we have experienced so far is just the tip of the iceberg, so don't think it's time to relax. Keep on preparing. The world economy is vast in all aspects and regions. Most nations are under pressure, while Portugal has become the most acute recently. The Portuguese Socialist Party, together with the Communists, has formed a left-wing bloc and thus has an absolute majority in the country, which is not accepted by President Aníbal Cavaco da Silva, who does not invite them to form a new government because they are against austerity and the proposed wage moderation. The Socialists also want Portugal's debt to be written off by 50% and to leave the European Union monetary union. The euro has destroyed enough European countries by now. The banks are in a bleak situation because interest rates have to remain at 0%, or else all the institutions that have derivatives would be bankrupt, like Deutsche Bank, for example, which has about $100 trillion in derivatives that are on the page of collars, and it is not the only bank with that massive exposure. So does JP Morgan. Indeed, US banks have up to more than $250 trillion in derivatives exposure. The real value of this bank exposure is estimated at some $500 trillion. If any of the counterparties collapse, it would cause unimaginable damage to the bank's total of $500 trillion and to the global derivatives exposure of $1.5 trillion. As long as the crisis continues, cash will be the king. Cash will buy more everyday goods and services and will put a more than considerable price on all kinds of financial and real estate assets. In fact, we lightworkers have already won the battle against the dark side on some points. What is important is that the entire world population supports this victory to prevent the negative forces from returning to planet Earth at some point in the future. Geopolitics. The Octagon Group in Switzerland is calling for peace after the death of Evelyn de Rothschild, according to Benjamin Fulford. In fact, they have asked the White Dragon Society to send a representative to Switzerland to negotiate. This week's G20 meeting in Bali, Indonesia, will attempt to portray Russia as isolated when the opposite is true. It illustrates the political paralysis that they say they cannot find out who won the 8th November midterm elections until December or beyond. The 14th October default means that oil imports from the Middle East and goods from Asia are drying up, and shortages of daily prices have begun. The situation in the world remains very tense because of Western alliances' attempts to avoid total loss of its global leadership in the hope of continuing to solve its problems at the expense of other members of the international community. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said, "The news is that Germany made a deal with Russia, which explains Russia's withdrawal from Kherson. Germany intends to improve relations with Russia and China, and the Netherlands lifted sanctions against Russia." Economy. US house prices are plummeting, and demand for mortgage loans plummeted to levels not seen since the Great Depression of the 30s, according to Sochafal. According to Juan Sabin, the US has used up all its reserve fuel. There won't be any for emergencies. The price of fuel is going to go up even more now that the midterms are over. Midterm election results not yet known. With just a day to go before Election Day, which will define the new configuration of the US Congress, the results of the midterm elections have not yet to be announced amid accusations of cheating. Why didn't the expected red tide happen? Although the latest data showed the Republicans winning the midterm elections, their victory was not as resounding as expected. Texas governor invokes invasion clauses to stem wave of migrants. According to the X22 report, central banking is using the same playbook they used in 1933 to control the gold market, and now they are using it to try to control Bitcoin, and it will fail, in his opinion. Elon Musk's vision of the future at the G20. Sitting in the dark, his face half lit by a reddish light, billionaire Elon Musk outlined his eccentric vision of the future, with otherworldly beings, rocket travel, and a network of underground tunnels at a side event at the G20 summit. The conversation turned especially to Musk's quirky vision of the future, with a network of underground tunnels to ease office traffic congestion, rocket travel around the world, and alien life. In quotes, we may find extraterrestrial civilizations or discover civilizations that existed millions of years ago, he said. Europe. Europe's leaders trap for its citizens, charge the public debt on the citizens. This is what the leaders of the European Union will do, who have decided to mask the cost of paying for more expensive energy. Instead of it being reflected in the bill of the electricity or gas companies, it will be through inflation, according to the president of the ECAI Center consultancy, Adrian Zelaya. Poland is investigating the impact of 2 missiles on its territory. Russia denies that it has dark targets near the Ukrainian-Polish border. Americas. The National Confederation of Peasant, Indigenous and Black Organizations of Ecuador suspended for 3 days the strike planned for 15th November, awaiting a government decree on the cancellation of debts of up to $10,000. Mexico proposes to the G20 to promote dialogue between Russia and Ukraine to cease hostilities. The US is preparing to open a new battlefront against Mexico over its policy of banning GM maize imports. US lawmakers are calling for a dispute settlement committee to be convened if no agreement is reached through dialogue with Mexican authorities. Frida, the rescue dog of the 2017 earthquakes in Mexico, dies. Argentina offers to build a wall that guarantees food security. Argentina succeeds in extending its financial agreement with China by $5 billion. Germany, in quotes, Germany is a superior race, the phrase for which Mauricio Macri is being criticized. In Argentina, they pay tribute to the victims of the submarine Ara San Juan 5 years after the tragedy, but hide what happened. The families of the crew members denounce delays in the process. Argentina's inflation in October accelerates to 6.3%, and year-on-year inflation reaches 88%. Venezuela's oil production rises 51,000 barrels per day in October. Iran and Venezuela sign a new economic cooperation agreement in the fields of energy, petrochemicals, mining, agriculture, and science. Peru is the Hispanic country with the most influence from the Chinese regime, according to a report. Reflections. Let us not forget that bodily transfiguration back to the immortal ethereal beings we once were, in creation is the goal of the transhumanists. But these people are attempting it by their own efforts, without God. They are like thieves trying to find a back door to the kingdom of heaven using forbidden technology. Against materialism, in the modern age, God, the traditional foundation of Western civilization, is increasingly rejected by the body politic, leading governments to adopt materialistic philosophies to supplant divine rule. As the ancient matrix slowly unravels, the humankind has reached a turning point. The separation between the agenda of evil and the agenda of light has become quite clear. Since our controllers took up residence on Earth, it has been bread and circuses. But the choice is ours, and always has been. Do you want to live in a matrix hell or an Eden paradise? Poet Doc Reflection. I know that no matter what appearances indicate, all is according to the divine plan. I know that angels guide the writers. And I know that only God knows who the writers are. I know that those who do all these evils upon humankind do it for their own amusement. I know that they delight in the execution of evil upon their fellow men. I know that they do it for the sheer joy they experience. I know also that the only karmic means of righting the scales in the long march towards perfect balance and perfect justice. I know that existence is an endless game of cops and robbers, and you play at your own peril. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of the gods. The New Republic by James McConnell. Everything is about to change, and many will call this a miraculous change. Many will not see this coming. For those of you who are the awakened ones have known that this has been coming for some time. These great changes are upon you. It is up to each and every one of you to be those warriors of the light. Many will have to step out of their comfort zone. You are destined to do so when the time is right, when you feel the call and not before. There will be no tokenization of the earth and its resources by human beings who did not create it, who do not own it, and who have shown no talent or interest in conserving it. The resources of the planet belong to the living beings who reside here, and not to any built-in legal fiction whatsoever. The phoenix must die before it is reborn. In 86, Pope Clement used the phoenix to argue for the resurrection of Jesus. The phoenix bird also appears in the Jewish Talmud. The phoenix was the only bird that refused to eat from the tree of knowledge, and God rewarded its obedience by giving it immortality and allowing it to remain in the Garden of Eden. The phoenix is also linked to the Hindu deity Garuda, a solo bird that is the mount of the god Vishnu. In all three religions, the phoenix appears as an emblem of eternal life. Puffness said, "One of the greatest shortcomings of humankind is that we have become complacent about our lives. Complacent is defined as marked by self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by ignorance of real dangers or deficiencies. Politics creates strange bedfellows, as the old saying goes. Politics is a lot of shenanigans. You vote, you do what you can, you support the supposedly right people, and there you have the result. That's what you all do. The system has been in shambles for years, so nothing here is really new. There are cracks in the system. Whistleblowers could come forward. There are issues that are testing the minds of those who are involved or compromised. There are many divisive issues in addition to the political. There are plans afoot to change the outcome of many things. There are facts, and there are stories, and there are offenders, and there are good people working behind the scenes. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.